Hello and good day. Here is the Kramer's Corner with a special edition of defense stocks, European defense stocks. They've been on the rise for quite some time, but now we seem to entering a correction mode. Top and reversal patterns across the board. Here we have BAE Systems from London or from UK that massive sell-off yesterday, massive bearish engulfing, taking out this little correction here. So short term, we are actually in a bit of a downtrend. It is not 100% confirmed yet. We have the RSI testing the 40 threshold, meaning we are still in a positive sentiment. At close below 40, we are in a negative sentiment that could push BAE Systems lower. It is currently testing support at 1268. And that is key. Let's remove that one. That was a minor support. If we close below 1268, well, then there is potential down to around 1223. Around that level, we can see in this consolidation area here, we could dip down to that level. However, if we look on the weekly chart and a little bit medium to longer term, we are still in an uptrend. There's no divergence on the RSI, meaning that this peak here is the highest peak since for months and months. So it indicates we could see higher levels on the medium to longer term. Technically, there's nothing preventing BAE from trading higher medium term to longer term, but it is not a guarantee it will occur. The next couple of days could at least be decisive here what's going on. If it does break below 1220, well, then we are completely different ball game. Dassault system has been the weakest of them all. And you will see why later when we go through the rest of the European defense stocks. After gapping lower here back in February, excuse me, it's been on the decline, finding some support just around 39 euros with a strong bounce, bullish engulfing here, but it is not a guarantee that it will actually bounce higher. We need at least Dassault system to break back above and close above the upper falling trend line, and at least, and let's have a look at the if we do also draw a little bit of a trend line here, that is the minimum level 47.71 that it needs to close above to establish a short-term uptrend. Medium term, also fairly heavy. Again, there could be a downside to 30 around that level if it takes out 39 euros. So keep an eye on those levels if you are trading that system. Moving on to Hensoldt. Massive sell-off here the past few days, the past week or so. Testing the gap area. Oops, let's get rid of that one. That is a little bit obsolete. Testing the gap area, actually dipped down, trying to close it, but bounced. German Hensoldt has always been traded heavily down here the past few days, where we can see it's testing the key support at 38.50 and the gap area here down to 37.10, but it didn't close below. It actually closed back above this support, so that will be interesting and something to follow here the next couple of days. Will it actually close below 38.50? If it does, then it will try to close the gap, and if it does close below 37.10, well, there will be likely further downside pressure to test the lower rising trend line and this consolidation area here. We can actually also draw a little bit of a trend line here, just a support line around these levels here, around 35, and that really is a key. I think I will actually place it right there, just around 35.5. However, on the weekly chart, as we can see here on the weekly, it's also clear the gap area that was tested. There's no divergence on the RSI, meaning there's no imbalance, indicating we could see higher levels on Hensoldt in the coming months and possibly towards the end of the year. The question is, will it all be demolished by a massive sell-off here the next couple of days? So that will be key. It's not a guarantee just because there's no divergence. I mean, the values here are corresponding nicely with the peak here, and it's supporting higher levels in the medium term, but it's not a guarantee that it will also materialize. Moving on to Kongsberg Group from from Oslo, Norway. We have an bearish engulfing that formed yesterday after doji taking out basically the entire last leg, so to speak, and the past 8-10 days of trading. Divergence on the RSI, as we can see here, that you can see that the peaks here are declining where the market went higher. That is a sign of imbalance in the market. So it's really, it was ripe for a correction. All of them were ripe for a correction. All the defense stock, apart from Dassault, of course, that already been in a downtrend. Support at 689.5 around that level. Again, the upper part of the support area or consolidation area we see here back from February, March. If it does close below that, well, then we could see a push down to around 650. However, also here on the weekly chart, despite forming this top and reversal pattern, it is a little bit, it is not a good sign that it does that, but doesn't mean that it will totally collapse. It just means that we are in for a correction that could take it down to around this consolidation area. 650 is really key, and there's no divergence on the RSI indicating we could see higher levels on Kongsberg Group going in on the medium to longer term. Excuse me. Leonardo, Italian. Massive sell-off also here we saw yesterday, massive bearish engulfing, basically taking out the previous 2 weeks of uptrend and following through today. I think we'll see a test of the support around the 2086, around 21, and also we have this consolidation area here, could dip down to 1985, and that's probably it. If it does that, it is still a little bit up in the air. As we can also see here, we do have some divergence on the RSI. You can see the peaks here, or the values are declining also here on the RSI. And that's an imbalance in the market. It means that the uptrend was an exhaustive move, and a correction was looming, and now it is coming. It's just a bit fierce, I would say, a little bit heavy one. But maybe that's a good thing, so we can have this correction and then move on. But let's see, it's not a given that it will come back to higher levels. I'm not going to talk about the fundamentals. I'm not going to talk about how that is a given, that since we are planning to spend billions and billions on military equipment in the coming years here in Europe, it's purely from a technical point of view. I'm looking also, we have here on the weekly top and reversal pattern that is telling us we are in for a correction. How big it is of course hard to say. So be careful, don't catch a falling knife at the moment. So let's see how far we can go before it probably will move higher again, because what we can see here also, Leonardo, there's no divergence on the RSI, and we could see a move higher on the medium to a longer term on this thin stocks also. Rheinmetall, one of the big ones that was really one of the first movers, I would say, that has well, in less than 3-4 months, it's actually double in value. Also massive bearish engulfing, very close to testing support at 489.40, spiking lower. That is the key level to look out short term. If it does break below, and indeed closing below, well, then we are looking at 441. But let's see. Also here we have divergence short term. But if it can keep itself above this level there without closing below, well, then we can possibly see it crawling slowly higher. massive candle here this week. I mean, really massive move in terms of volatility. It was heavily overbought, just around 90 on the RSI value, really heavy overbought. So we were ripe for a correction. How big it is of course debatable. It could actually drop all the way down to around 440, maybe even lower. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but there is room for it. So keep an eye on the next couple of days and coming weeks. But it also tells us that since there's no divergence, we could see higher levels on Rheinmetall going into medium to longer term, meaning in a few months into the future. That's at least what the chart tells me at the moment. That's what they're telling me. Also here we have a massive sell-off yesterday. Key support 854 on SAAB Sweden. Key support could be tested here next couple of days. Also a divergence indicating we could see a correction. It is a little bit of a worry. You can see it took all these buyers up here, so they are hurting a little bit at the moment, and maybe some of them panics sold here. Keep an eye on this support area between 854 and down to around 800. It could dip down to there, but then I think also that correction will be over. If we're looking at the weekly chart, also top and reversal pattern here. And just because it's a top reversal doesn't mean that then now it just will go full-blown bearish. It just means, at least to begin with, we are in for a correction. It's just a question how big it will. And then it could come back. But we need confirmation that now it's a bottom out and start moving higher again, if it actually does that. We don't know that yet. But the weekly chart tells us that could be a correction, of course, but then it could move higher. There's no divergence on the RSI. But this is actually a prime example here. You can see also here there was no divergence on the RSI, and still we got a little bit of a downtrend, and then it took off again. So it could be maybe just lingering around or hang around for quite some time, but I will follow the moves quite closely on these defense stocks. Here we have Thales from France. Actually formed the double top, was confirmed when it broke below 156.75, reached 161.8 projection, as you can see here, of the double top pattern, could move all the way down to 150 spot 90, as indicated by these two vertical arrows, where I measure from the peak of the double top to the valley, as it is called, and then just shifted it lower, and that's 200% of this double top. So 150 spot 90, around that, we could see it dropping to the also here divergence on the RSI, but this is actually the key support also drawn here. So that is a key. So if it does close below that, well, then we're maybe in for a little bit of more trouble. But we're in this, I wouldn't say consolidation area, but this massive volatility area here on Thales. So really something to keep an eye on. Also, bearish engulfing on the weekly chart, and it came after we had this gravestone doji, as we call it, where there's almost no lower shadow or wicks, and we have a tall one and a fairly flat body called a doji. So it's a gravestone doji. It's the top and reversal indicator, and it was also followed by a bearish engulfing. So we are in for a correction also here before we potentially can move higher. So we have to look out for all these support levels. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day, and happy investing.